Good morning, church family. As we're moving through Lent, I like to follow the stories about Jesus in his time as approaching his uh, his death and resurrection. And I love the story of Lazarus. And I was looking at that this morning. And I've also been doing something else lately in my devotional. I've been looking for so that. There's so many times in the Bible we hear something and then it says so that there's a reason for this to happen, right? And sometimes uh, it's really good things and amazing things. And as I started to go through it, I decided to begin the New Testament. The very first one I found was uh, that Herod asked the the wise men from the east to come back and tell him where Jesus was, so that he could go and kill the child. But mostly, they're of really good things, and mostly they're things. The so that's are things that are specifically what God has placed in our lives to help us learn something really important. So we're going to look at John chapter 11, verse 14. It says, "So then he told them plainly," and speaking of Jesus, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." So Jesus knew Lazarus was sick, and he delayed going to him, and it was for a reason. It was for a specific reason, so that the disciples would really believe, maybe in a way they never had before. Because Jesus was going there now at this point, Lazarus is dead, to raise Lazarus from the dead. Well, that's an amazing thing. Um, so as we look through the different scriptures where we see the so that's, there was also the question where they questioned, well, why was the man born blind? Is it because of his father sinned, or his he sinned, or what was the cause of this? And Jesus said, no, this was so that God would be glorified. And I see so many times in my life where I messed up and I did some really dumb things. I didn't get to be the recovery pastor because I was a good little boy, right? I did a lot of things I shouldn't be doing. But because of the power of God and because of the way He changes our lives, He took those things and used them for good. Reminds me of Romans 8:28. I love that verse, because He takes those bad things we've done and turns around and uses them for something good. Our bad choices, our bad decisions. But when we let Him come into our heart and we let Him change our lives, these amazing things happen. And we get these so that's in our lives. I hope that you can think and maybe reflect on that now. Maybe there's some so that's in your lives. Um, God put a person in your life so that you could find him. God put an experience in your life so that you could know he was real, so that you could depend on him maybe in a way that you never had before. I know that that's part of what happened to me. I know that I did the wrong things of being involved in addiction and alcohol and drugs, but God turned that around and used it for something good. He turned it into testimony. In our lives, each and every one of us, our failures can be turned around so that God can be glorified, so that we can be an example of what God can do in a person's life if we just turn our will and our life over to Him. I think of the last 33 years that since we started Serenity. We're in our 33rd year of doing Serenity, and it's kind of poignant because I've stepped down as the recovery pastor, and still in in our retirement, Valerie and I will be doing ministry, and it's really exciting that we get to be involved in it. But I know that God used that time. He used my failings, and He used the calling that He put on my life to help a lot of people in our community. And I know that God has put a man who loves Him, who understands that struggle, who is gifted in working with people in recovery, to step in and into the shoes of Ken Mariano, myself, and follow along, so that we continue to have a recovery ministry at our church, so that we can continue to reach the least and the last and lost at OroNaz. So uh, it's really a good to know that God has put the person there to take my place. I'll be working with Sam where I can and bring him up to speed on what I've learned over the years to the best of my ability, helping him get to know everybody in the recovery community. and we will be working together to carry the legacy of OroNaz in recovery and in Oroville. I'm excited about that, and I know that God has a plan. And I know that God brought Sam to us so that our recovery legacy can continue in Oroville. Valerie and I are looking at working in our ministry called Came to Believe Recovery, and we're going to be traveling a lot. So I want you to know when you don't see us there a few Sundays in a row once in a while that we're not going anywhere. We're Nazarenes through and through, and we are part of this church. This is our church family, and we aren't going anywhere. We're going to be part of everything we can be a part of. But God has another calling on our lives right now, and it's a it was kind of the perfect kind of a thing that we could do in retirement. We were actually praying, what could we do together in ministry in retirement? And many times in the family, I've driven kind of what we're doing and what our plans are going to be in certain things. And in this time, I really took my time and prayed. And I went to Valor and he said, this came to believe thing is really neat. And I think we might be something God's calling us to do. But I want you to know that you have a veto power over this. You have the ability to make the decision if we're going to continue and do this in our retirement, because our retirement is a time for us to spend time together in ways we've never been able to. And I think it was after coming home from the second retreat, and I think we were even on the ridge route, and she looked at me and said, I just love doing this. And that was that answer from God. That was that knowledge from God that this is what we're called to do in ministry in our retirement. The example set for us by many people that came before us at OroNaz is the reason why we're interested in being involved in ministry in our retirement. We're looking forward to the days ahead to serve God as long as we're able, and we're absolutely looking forward to seeing what God will do with the new leadership at Serenity. I hope you just have a blessed day and go through this week. I look forward to seeing you in church on Sunday and through the rest of the Easter season. God bless and have a great day.